In this particular website, you can actually see this particular personality type test. It's called MBTI. So MBTI stands for Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. It's a test developed by Myers and Briggs, but then it's based on Carl Jung's psychological archetypes, based on which MBTI has categorized people into 16 personality types. So the real root is in cognitive functions. It's based on these cognitive function that 16 personalities have been formed in MBTI. So I will just explain you how these cognitive functions play a role. There are 8 of these cognitive functions. Each type has 4 main functions in their stack. So it's a combination of 4 among these functions that determines a personality type. For example, let's take ESFJ. The top 4 functions of this particular personality type is: number 1 is FE, extroverted feeling. The second one in their stack is SI, introverted sensing. Third function is NE, that is extroverted intuition. Fourth function is TI, introverted thinking. To be honest, there are 8 functions, but then the last 4 are called the shadow side, and the first 4 is called the main stack of a particular type. So for an ESFJ, the top 4 functions are actually FE, SI, NE, and TI. Now, if you dive deep into what each of these functions are, it's going to get quite fascinating. And then you're going to be able to understand why ESFJs are the way they are. So once you understand the cognitive functions in depth, you will actually realize why it makes sense, why it's not pseudoscientific, and why it has real value to provide in our life. There's a superficial way of typing people as well. If you take each letter for what it actually is, that is E for extroversion, S for sensing, F for feeling, and J for judging. Some people type based on these 4 letters, and they would say an ESFJ is a person who's extroverted in general. They use their sensing function more than intuition. They make most of their decisions based on their feeling or emotion rather than thinking through logically. It's a spectrum. It's not that they only make emotional decisions. It's that most of their decisions are based on their feeling and not based on logic. In this context, what judging means is they are more organized. They plan and make decisions rather than improvising in the moment. You can get somewhat an accurate type based on this, but this can also lead you to grossly wrong typing as well, because this is not the actual root factors that determine a person's type. You can get a good probability of people right, and then the other would be astonishingly wrong. So that is why this is not the ideal way to type. To understand somebody's personality type, we should always use cognitive functions. So if you look at a person and see that their top function is extroverted feeling, you have a clue which all are the types that have FE as the top function. There are only 2 types. One is ESFJ and you have ENFJ. So only 2 types have FE as their top function. If you're able to identify this person has extroverted feeling as their top function, then you can narrow them down to basically 2 types. And for an ESFJ, their second function is SI. So if you have FE and then SI, for sure that person has to be an ESFJ. Instead, if it's NE, it'll go to ENFJ. But let's ignore that. If it's FE plus SI in the first 2 functions, then that person has to be an ESFJ. That is how you type. You look at them and you see what is their top function. If it's extroverted feeling, then you narrow down them to 2 types. Then the second function will reveal you then. Then you can look for third function if you want. If you see inferior NE, that's another way to say they are ESFJ. In the fourth position, if you see TI, that's a bit difficult to spot because the fourth function is actually very invisible. It's not that visible. It's pretty weak for them. So the top function is always the strongest. Then comes the second function. Third function is called a child function because it's only as good as a 10-year-old's top function. Fourth is the inferior function. It's too low on the spectrum. Fourth for them is TI. This is what makes up an ESFJ. Interesting fact is that learning this would actually help you to understand the people around you and yourself. You will understand why do you act the way you do. So everything will become clear to you once you understand how these functions work. Using cognitive functions is the best way to type. But this is a quick hack. By answering a few questions, you'll be able to understand what kind of a personality you are.